We get you set for each and every week on the PGA Tour, and plenty that is happening in the world of golf, as we are joined now on the early line on this Tuesday morning by Keith Stewart, joining us live from the Sunshine State, taking in a triple header of action in TGL yesterday, and Tiger Woods in front of the simulator tonight as well down there in Florida. Keith, thank you so much for taking the time. As always, excited to have you here. Not exactly a marquee week on the PGA Tour ahead, but it was a big one last week. We'll talk about that in just a matter of moments. But once again, thanks for taking the time.
Guys, it's great to be with you on the early line. I just have to say, yesterday, the triple header for President's Day was absolutely electric. The first match, Atlanta over LA, two very good teams, goes to overtime. The second match, the Bay Club with Ludvig Aberg over Atlanta, goes down to the last putt. And then the third match of the night, the Bay Club over Boston Common with Rory McIlroy, goes down to the last putt as well. A couple rule changes there. They're having some fun. And, boy, it was some really, really entertaining sports.
Keith, it seems as though the exciting nature, the electricity, the atmosphere for TGL has continued throughout the entirety of its season. But let's go to that PGA Tour schedule. Genesis Invitational, of course, in the other location at Torrey Pines. And he was almost forgotten on Sunday, but certainly not forgotten if you paid attention to the early line with Keith last week, live from San Diego. His early leans on the early line told you to keep an eye on Ludvig Aberg at a 25-1 number early in the week, and a champion at the Genesis Invitational. Keith, what stood out to you most about Oberg's performance on Sunday to go home a champion?
Well, I tell you what, everyone knows about 3 weeks ago when he played in the Farmers, he was leading after 36 holes, and then he got sick and couldn't finish that one off. I tell you what, he had that on his mind. He was healthy, and he took down the best in the world. He was really, really impressive. Number one, tee to green, and it was an absolute stripe show. Over his last 12 holes, he shot 6 under par on Sunday, and he took control of the tournament when Scotty was a little too far back, when Rory couldn't get the job done. It was Matt McNeely, it was Patrick Rogers, it was Denny McCarthy at the top. Ludvig Aberg was 5th in the world at the time. He said, hey, you know what, boys? This is my tournament. He goes 3 birdies in a row on the back 9. I know CBS didn't cover it, but guess what? Those shots still happen. And it was absolutely fantastic. 7-foot birdie on the last to take his first signature title in front of Tiger Woods. This kid he's the it player in golf right now.
Feels like right now another day closer to the Masters, which we love, is almost that rite of spring coming up. But we got a couple more golf tournaments in here squeezed in between. One this weekend is the Mexico Open at Vedanta World. Looks like it's about 7,500 yards here. Talk to us about this golf course, and also, are we at elevation here in Mexico? Will that help the players, and who does it fit here?
Donnie, unfortunately, we're not. We're down there in the Cabo, like Puerto Vallarta area, and these guys are right there, seaside. When it comes right down to it, you guys want Keith's keys. Number one, you're going to need some ball speed at this place. You look at the guys that have won, Jake Knapp, Tony Finau, John Rahm, all of those leaderboards, they're just covered with absolute bombers. Those 3 winners themselves have gained an average of 4.5 strokes off the tee on the field. The second thing is you got to have long irons. 40% of your approach shots this week are coming in from over 200 yards. You got to have guys that can have some super proximity from far away. And the third thing is you got to watch out for these par 3s, Donnie. There's 5 of them on this golf course. So the extra par 3 thrown in there over the course of 4 days and 72 holes definitely adds up, and a bunch of them are long. So it goes back to the 200 yards plus approach factor. Those are 3 things that I keep an eye on when you're looking at either the top of the board or even a little bit further down.
The final weekend of February into March begins the Florida Swing next week. Then we get back to some of the bigger, more signature events on the PGA Tour, the Arnold Palmer Invitational, the API into the Players' Championship, golf's 5th major. But Keith, maybe this week, not exactly the most robust field of the Mexico Open. So as you look at the odds board and who you expect to have a good week in Puerto Vallarta, who are a couple of names for us to know?
I tell you what, it's not often that you're going to have Akshay Bhatia carry a tournament as the favorite. He did finish T9 at the Genesis, so he's somebody to watch out for. And we have seen the favorites win here before. Rahm did it in the first edition, and in the second edition, Tony Finau did it. I'm not quite sure, though, Akshay Bhatia has the resume quite of those two. I'm looking a little bit further down the board for my early leans. The first guy I like is Beau Hossler. Beau Hossler's the type of player that plays very well in the desert, and that's what this golf course is going to seem like. Almost like you're over in Dubai somewhere, right? It's wide open. Donnie already mentioned it. It's super, super long at 7,400 plus yards. You got to be able to bomb it. You got to be able to hit some long irons. Beau can do that, and he can get up and down. At plus 3,500, I like him in that middle tier. I mean, some of these guys are at some crazy numbers that normally are in the 60s, 70s, and 80s, and they're down in the 20s and 30s. Beau, he's definitely a guy that's been out on tour, 4 made cuts this year, and he absolutely has had 2 top 15s, one of which was at Amex, which is also in the desert. The second guy, and you guys are going to love saying this name, Matteo Manassero, all right? At plus 12,000, 120 to 1. This guy's an absolute stud. We remember him as a kid coming out of Italy, made it on the DP World Tour early. Well, you know what? He is qualified for the PGA Tour this year because of his play last year over there in the Rolex standings. Matteo is absolutely a perfect fit for this place. He bombs it, and he's a really, really solid long iron player, much like Francisco Molinari, his countryman, was for so many years on the PGA Tour. Must be something in the past over there. I don't know. But Manassero is definitely somebody hard this week. And further down the list, we can make some money this week, guys, because without all of those headliners, there's definitely going to be some bombs in contention.
Some big spots and no doubt some value at the Mexico Open. Keith, tonight at TGL, Tiger Woods out there as well. What do you expect to see out of the big cat tonight in TGL?
I think the Tiger is really itching to play some golf. You could kind of sense it in the booth at CBS with Jim Nantz over the weekend. There was a lot of talk about golf, a lot of talk about being competitive. I think that he was just dying to get back out and do something. So tonight, he's jumping back in against New York. Both of these teams really need a win. They're facing elimination in the playoffs for the TGL, which will be over by the end of March. I think a big night from Tiger and an even bigger night from Tom Kim.
That's what you got to do in front of that simulator. Keith, we appreciate it. Enjoy the action tonight at TGL.